Hey, everybody, and welcome back once again to the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. I'm your host, Gene Jackson, and join me, as always, in welcoming your favorite tag team in the territory, Josh Briley and Richard Mullican of P3 Radio.
Yeah.
Guys, how's it going?
It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you, Gene. Thought I don't
Man, tell you what, I have to admit, while I did enjoy my vacation with my wife, and I did enjoy pre-recording an interview with the great Downtown Bruno, it did feel weird last week not recording an episode, and it felt even weirder not watching an episode of 1993 USWA Wrestling. So I'm excited to be back with you guys, and all is right with the world again now that we're here ready to record another episode of the show.
Yeah, we're excited. You know, Josh, you can tell he's just can't shut up over there.
I'm just it's been a long weekend, but I feel guilty saying that after what you just told us, Gene. But yeah, I'm tapped out, man. But I'm excited to be here. Yes, it was like a void in my life that was just unfulfilled until I got back in front of the camera.
Well, we are here to fill your void, Josh.
Oh yes.
Wait a minute. We'll edit that out. Now I did say previously that all was right with the world, but that's not entirely true. That it was unintentionally a lie, because actually all is not right with the world, guys. As this show opens, Dave Brown gives us the soul-crushing news that, much like how I was on vacation last week from our show, this week our favorite Corey Macklin is on vacation and will not be here calling the action. And I would be lying if I didn't admit I'm more than just a little bummed out by that news. How does that make you guys feel?
That's ridiculous.
You know what's funny? I somehow missed that and never thought any more about it.
What?
Yeah, I never thought any more about it. I was just like, oh, well. I didn't hear Dave's announcement for whatever reason. I don't know why. Maybe it was because it was like Dave was standing in front of the curtain and like talking like he was Johnny Carson. That was such a weird angle. Like Dave was just standing there. I was like, what the hell happened? And then when he was just running down the card for the day, I was just like, oh, okay, skip.
Well, usually in situations like this, they would get Michael St. John. Like,
yeah,
he may have been busy that day. And it was just maybe to roll solo.
Maybe it's a testament to how good Dave is that I just didn't miss Corey on this one. I didn't until you just said that. I realized, oh yeah, he damn sure wasn't there, was he?
You didn't realize Corey Macklin wasn't in there? How can you watch a show when Corey Macklin's not in there? Wow, I am hurt. I'm confused. I don't know what's going on here. You didn't realize Corey wasn't there until at this moment.
So just now.
I mean, because I almost want to turn the show off and just like call you guys and go like, hey guys, let's skip this episode and just go on to the next one because Corey's not going to be here. And then I watched the episode and then I really want to call you guys and go, hey, let's skip this episode because it's a flaming bag of shit. But
it's not good.
We didn't. And that's all we've watched. So today we are traveling back in time to May the 8th, 1993. And while we may be being a little hard on it right now, Dave did let us know once he gave the heartbreaking news that Corey Macklin wasn't there. He let us know that we were going to see a middleweight championship match right here on the show today. And also, for those of you who don't remember when we talked about it at the end of the last episode we did, he let us know that Papa Shango is the new unified world champion, and he will be here today in the studio. Sounds like it could potentially be fun. I don't know. Maybe it'll be fun as we talk about it here. Maybe all of us weren't in the right frame of mind when we watch it. I don't know. They take a break and we return. We go to highlights of said title change between the King and Papa Shango. And we got to take a look at that. How in the world could the King lose the unified title? It happened like this.
misses. Lawler gets out of the way. King on his feet now. Oh, boy. Look out, Papa Shango. The stump of Lawler comes out. Now away on Papa Shango. Sends the big man staggering to Lawler. Whips him in hard to the ropes. Oh, big back drop from Lawler. Takes him down. Flamingo gets up on the apron. Lawler busts Flamingo a couple of times. Drop kick from the King. Scotty Flamingo still trying to get in the ring. Frank Morrell trying to hold him back. But watch out, Papa Shango's on his feet, Jerry. Lawler and Morrell trying to keep Flamingo out. Oh, boy! Papa Shango goes in after Lawler. The King just politely lit him out with a big ball of fire. Watch Papa Shango, though, King. He's got that skull. Flings fire in out of that skull over there he's got. Shoots it right in the eyes of Lawler. Bulldogs the King. He's got him covered. Oh, boy. 1, 2, 3, and we've got a new unified World Heavyweight Champion.
Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I understand what they were trying to do, but the execution and, it's just circumstantial, I guess. But seemed like Lawler threw what was like a volcano's worth of lava at him. And then he had just this little beep, beep, little powder gun.
And could have flicked a big lighter and got a bigger flash.
Yeah, I guess you figure, though, WWE designed that thing. Like, it should be worse than shit. But
I don't think it was ever intended to be shot at somebody. It was supposed to be like an entrance way thing. Like, they showed a clip of it. And, that's what makes it even worse is like last week they showed a clip where it was just like engulfing the whole arena when he held it up like a He-Man power sword, and then this week it barely shoots out, it's kind of like how you brag to your wife what you're going to do and then what you actually do. It was disappointing from that standpoint.
And he won the belt.
Yeah, it was enough to beat Lawler. So we, at different times since we've been watching this run of USWA, the pile driver's kind of been killed off through some things. Now, granted, they did good with Sherry a couple of weeks ago, and she sold it. It caused her to have the hotel towel around the neck, much like it did Dundee. Of course, Dundee had took 3 or 4 on the concrete floor and then came back for a run-in at the end of the show, which in my mind kind of killed the pile driver. And so now Lawler, who has been teasing hot Memphis nights every other week for the last 4 months, throws a pretty damn good fireball. It looked pretty good. It hit right on the mark, got right in his face. Then Papa Shango no-sells it, and then has that little mild flash come out of his gimmick skull there. Then hits him with a bulldog, Sam Houston style from the 1988 WWE.
Out of nowhere. Boom. I like it.
He gets the win, wins the title. Papa Shango's our new champ. But to say I'm underwhelmed would be an understatement. Wow. I don't know. I don't think there's much more we can add to that right now. Maybe we'll talk a little more about it later in the show. But Papa Shango is your new champ. And maybe we won't have to hear Lawler tease fireballs every week for a while, because if I'm him, I want to stay away from fireballs for a little bit until we kind of forget about that. But stick around, folks. We may not be able to forget about them that quick. But I will say this, spoiler and a teaser for later in the show. As embarrassed as they may have been as how that one went when he cost Lawler the title, boy, do we make up for it later in the show, but we'll get there. So we come out of that to highlights of Dave Brown being joined by the Master of Terra, as Uncle Danny would say. And it's fun to me, guys. I don't know how you feel about this. It's fun to me that the Master of Terror and his partner were used for a while in the USWA as like credible guys on the upper to lower mid card. You know, they had some pretty long-standing feuds with some guys, namely Uncle Danny and Bill Dundee, amongst others. And then all of a sudden, they suddenly dropped down to the status of basically being straight-up jobbers to some degree. And then we have this quick angle with Uncle Danny a couple weeks ago, and it seems like the Master of Terror is getting a push again, as we saw him whip ass on both members of PG-13 at the same time, leading into that awkward promo setting up a tag match. And now here we are getting promo time for Master of Terror. And I'm sorry, we're not spoiling anything here for people who don't like spoilers and inside knowledge, as they may say in a weird accent. This is Ken Wayne the minute he starts talking. I mean, there's no question about this. This is Ken Wayne out here. And he cuts this promo about how he doesn't like or dislike anyone. He's just here to win matches. I don't know. I sort of zoned out during this. What's your thoughts on this Master of Terror promo?
I thought it would be funny if he was like, as sure as my name is Master of Terror, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to win some matches. Yeah, I mean, I didn't get the interview. Like, why have an interview with a guy like 2-3 weeks ago when he was teaming with Uncle Danny? He couldn't even talk. He had to give the thumbs up and confuse everybody. Like, what's that mean? I guess that means he's on for it, but Danny's going to talk to him. And I mean, it really paints Danny and everybody involved in a very a way to say, hey, we're all stupid because we're not acknowledging, hey, that's Ken Wayne right there. That is obviously Ken. The only more recognizable voice would be Bill Dundee in there. Hey, brother, this is the Master of Terror, brother. It's yeah, we know that voice. That's Ken Wayne. And Danny has teamed with this man for years, and he can't tell the difference. I
feel like we missed out. Like you said, his version of a promo was that thumbs up a couple weeks ago. Dave Brown just brought him out there and be like, a couple weeks ago, you were psyched about teaming with Danny Davis against PG-13. Where are you at on that now? And if he just went like, and then walked away, this thumbs down, walks away, I'd be like, all right, cool. We're at least having some continuity here, if nothing else. So that's the word from Master of Terror. Now, since it worked out so well on the last episode we recorded, not the Downtown Bruno interview, but before that, we actually called the match between Brian Christopher and Jeff Jarrett for the Southern Heavyweight title. We got a lot of great feedback on it. People really seem to enjoy it. I'm not going to say we're going to do this every week by any means, or even every other week, but I've seen, hey, we got a middleweight championship match this week. It's between Uncle Danny defending against Wolfie D. These are two guys that both went into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame right in front of our very eyes just recently. Seems like a good opportunity for us to call a match. So what do you guys say? We take a moment and we check out this middleweight championship match. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Fired up. My word.
Josh, you got that jacket somewhere?
No, I think we threw it out whenever my grandmother died. Dude, I sent you guys a text message in the group whenever I watched this. I was like, it's almost like my granny packed the wrong thing or something. It was weird. Like, why did he wear that?
Like Danny got there and he's like, it looks a little bit like a blouse, but I mean, my mom knows what she's doing.
He's like, mom's going to be at church tomorrow morning with wearing a vest with a star on the back, apparently.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I guess maybe he thought it would look cool, but it didn't. He's trying to be different, I guess. You remember back in the mid-'80s, they were him and Kim were one of the first teams with the pink and purple and blue hair and stuff like that. He's trying to be different.
Yeah, even as a kid, I pictured them with those Halloween spray cans back there spraying each other's head right before they walked out, pink, green, and yellow or whatever.
I'm kind of surprised that they're giving these guys this long of a match on TV,
Yeah, right out of the gate, too. It's our first match.
Well, I mean, if Master of Terror's cutting your opening promo, chances are you didn't have a lot of people show up.
Well, yeah, but we're not used to these. As you'll see, this is a decent length match for Memphis TV and a good back and forth.
It absolutely was, and that was one reason I wanted us to actually watch this match and let people hear about it, and hopefully people go back and watch it. We've got this match on our YouTube channel by itself, and of course you can always check out this whole episode on YouTube of the show that we're watching, even though I guess we haven't built it up very well. Look at Wolfie there strutting. And Uncle Danny is wearing him out with arm drags. That's the story of this match. You always hear people talk about the story. The story of the match is Wolfie D cannot overcome the arm drags of Uncle Danny.
Drag the shit out of that arm. I feel like this whole match is just Uncle Danny trying to pose. He's done hit 2 or 3. Like, look at him flexing those upper muscles.
Yeah, I feel like if there's a monitor that he can see, he's checking himself out that monitor. Like he's like, Wolfie, look at that, Wolfie.
How long do you think Wolfie had been wrestling at this point?
He had been in the business for, I think, probably 2 years at this point. But, we know for a fact he's only been on TV now for, what we hear, about 2 months now. And so...
this is a big deal.
Wolfie has said on my podcast, he said at Hall of Fame, and he said a lot over the years on his podcast that he did matches with Danny Davis like this all across the territory, and this is where he learned how to wrestle. This is how he learned how to work. That he knew moves, he knew how to bump different things, but working with Danny Davis is where he learned how to put it together, make it all happen, make it make sense. And he definitely learned how to take an arm drag. But, I mean, we're making fun of that just, for the show's sake. But this is a testament to how talented, your Uncle Danny was. Is like, if you break it down, all he's done is arm drags, but he's done them enough. They've got him back out of it. They kept things moving where it doesn't feel like that. It didn't like, oh, God, it's a bunch of arm drags. Like, it's been a good match, but he's managed to do it where if the only move he knew how to do was an arm drag, it still has been a good match.
I feel like he went to, Greg's House of Arm Drags and studied the art of the arm drag for a month. He's like, you know what? If I'm going to win this title, it's going to be arm drag related.
He told Wolfie, we're going to do the Ole Anderson. We'll work on that arm.
What if he hit one more arm drag and Wolfie just taps out?
he went to a wrestling school where you had to pay by the move you learned. Like, well, he learned arm drag, Irish whip, and he kind of run out of money after that, so we're just sticking with them. Then he sprung for the backdrop too, because you gotta have a backdrop in there somewhere.
Danny the Arm Dragon Davis.
The American Arm Dragon Davis. Look at Paul Neighbors in there, the referee. He's a handsome dude, ain't it? Oh, no, JC Ice getting involved.
Little bastard.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Look
out, Uncle Danny.
Oh, I bet his balls hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all I'm thinking when I see somebody jump flat-footed like that. That man's got to have more pain than anything right now. That's why he's not strutting. He's trying to get him back into focus there.
Trying to walk it off.
Work him back into position.
Yeah.
So that was a good spot for Wolfie D to take over. Some good heat for the PG-13 there with Jamie on the floor, putting the boots to him, or the tennis shoes as it would be.
The only thing it was missing was Corey's big move.
And I think it was because Corey was in all the clips that I didn't think that he wasn't there. You know what I mean? So I heard him.
Yeah, he made up for it in the clips. Because it's just Corey.
He ain't going to beat Danny Davis with a Vulcan nerve pinch. Oh.
Your grandmother's like, sure about that?
He did with just about everything else, but not those pinch. He ain't got no feeling in them shoulders because they've been pinned to the mat so many times.
Oh, man.
Now he's been showing us those huge traps this entire match.
Yeah.
So what's Wolfie going to work on? Let's see if
Uh-huh.
we can take those out.
I'm surprised he has any strength in that hand after that arm got dragged so many times.
It's true. Wolfie's not following the story here.
So-
Oh,
oh,
out to the floor.
did they leave that ring up 24/7 in the studio?
I don't know. I would like to know that because, I mean, they certainly didn't. That's not the ring they took around to the different towns.
Right.
But also know they did other things in that studio throughout the week, news related. But I'm sure they did it over there to the side. So, but I'd like for somebody to answer that.
I wonder. That's what I wondered, if they kept that ring up. Whoa, Jesus Christ!
He's giving it 110%. That's how you get hurt right there.
Oh man, yeah. I always wondered that, like, if they were in there having to like storm warnings and stuff like that, and there's a wrestling ring over in the corner. We're gonna take shelter under this wrestling ring that couldn't hold up a 500-pound man a couple weeks ago, and pray for the best.
This Stormfront coming in is going to arm drag our ass around like Danny Davis. I'll tell you.
Hopefully, we have a better record at winning. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Whoa. Not exactly Jeff Hardy execution there, but a big flipping senton from Wolfie D.
Yeah, that's really cool for Memphis TV.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
He's getting the upper hand.
Uncle Danny's pissed now because he just had to completely forego all the arm drags, and now we're just throwing fists, ramming turnbuckles.
Right. He's all off his game plan. It was to come in here, throw a couple arm drags, and lose. And now he's trying to win this match.
Stan Hansen clothesline there.
Was y'all ever put off by the turnbuckles in Memphis? Like how they just look like someone took a piece of couch cushion and duct taped it to the side?
Yes.
Exactly. George's Animal Steel wouldn't have been any fun in Memphis.
Mouth full of tape.
Oh, man. That's a hell of a neck breaker that Danny uses.
Man, don't look. Paul is like protecting the president right now. He's like, no,
I've never seen a referee work so hard to keep some out. Look at that, Master of Terra. That could be Bobby Eaton under there, guys. Look at that Alabama jam. He just
that looked really good.
Or perhaps Brian Christopher. We've seen him execute that recently as well. Paul Neighbors is like, hey, wait a minute.
I'm going to count left-handed. 2.
Surprise, surprise.
Oh, man. That sucks.
Let's go get his autograph now. I'm serious. You get a good autograph now. Maybe get on a picture of him losing. That'd be actually accurate.
Wolfie D is the new USWA Middleweight Champion thanks to the Master of Terra. Look at this, guys.
Bam.
Mm.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
Middleweight title change here, right here on the show, guys. What'd you think about that match?
Now, I think that Master of Terra is a fucking liar. I mean, he says he doesn't dislike anybody, doesn't like anybody. It's all about business. And then he goes and does that shit. He's a liar.
Yeah. And if you can't trust a person named Master of Terror, who can you trust in this day and age?
It's true, but I mean, he has mastered terror. You know what I mean? Like he's not just out there half-assing it. I mean, you're not gonna see Terra executed any better.
It's definitely not a master or a bachelor's degree.
No, associate of terror.
He's a master.
That's right. I didn't call him anything less. He's like, hey, I didn't spend that many years to become a master of terror for you to be out here.
What's the difference between
title?
Mr. Master of Terror? What's the difference between Master of Terror and a terror?
That's Dr. Master of Terror, motherfucker.
What's the difference between Master of Terror and a terrorist?
He has a PhD in it, Richard Lee.
So that finish totally goes against that angle from 2 weeks ago where Master of Terror come out and save Danny Davis in the name of, if anybody's going to take out Danny Davis, it's going to be me. And now he's out here helping the very same guys he fought against win the title from Uncle Danny. I mean, either am I missing something or is that somehow a stroke of genius? Am I wrong in thinking that kind of just does not jive with anything we've seen so far involving Danny Davis and Master Terra and PG-13?
It's a little confusing, but I think it's like, I guess, in their minds, they're thinking, well, it's just the Master of Terra playing head games with Danny Davis. You know, that's what they think, but really just looks kind of shitty.
Yeah. If you don't want to play the kind of head games Master of Terra is going to play with you, sure. Well, I don't know what you're into, but I don't anyway.
No, that's a game that'll get you some time.
So we'll move past that. After the next break, we come back to highlights of yet another Brian Christopher versus Koko B Ware match. And once again, the highlights seem to really, really hone in on the pushing and shoving between Brian Christopher and referee Frank Morrell. And in just a few moments, we're going to find out why. I think we'll skip the clip. You got the gist of Brian Christopher and a referee shoving each other. We don't really need to illustrate that any more than just what I just said. So Brian Christopher comes out and, he talks about Koko. He talks about Frank Morrell. And he has a surprise for them. He has challenged them to a tag team match. And he has a partner that can take on Frank Morrell and Koko B Ware. And he's about to introduce him to us right now. Check this out, folks.
Reunions of legends where the four horsemen ain't got nothing on Brian Christopher. Because I have the legend of all legends. The man that has beat them all. And he's here today. I'm about to bring him out here. The man that's going to do you in, Frank Morrell. Here he is. Now, I want everybody to treat him with proper respect. You understand me? The Spaceman, Frank Hickey. Oh, yeah.
Brian, Spaceman Frank Hickey is indeed a legend. He is a legend, but...
You see this, Frank Morrell? This is the man that is going to hurt you, Frank Morrell. This is the man that is going to break every old decrepit bone in your body. Come on, Frank. Come on over here. And Dave, I'm warning you, you better treat him with respect because this man is mean. This man is nasty. This man is a legend.
Frank Hickey, I know.
Tell him, Frank, what you're going to do.
I'm going to grind him up like I'm going to do Fizz. I did it to Fizz one time in St. Louis, and I can do it again. And Frank Morrell, look out, because I'm coming after you. I might be a little old, but I got a lot of experience. Now, I remember, excuse me, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say you're a legend. There's no doubt about it. And I know you wrestled Luthez. You've wrestled all the great ones. You beat them. But, I don't know, Prime and all of that.
Well, I knew Frank Morrell when I used to carry his bag to the ring from the parking lot, putting it 5 miles away. It sounds like.
But what he's forgetting to tell you is that was in 1910, wasn't it? That is how old Frank Morrell is.
No. That
was in 1910 that this man used to carry Frank Morrell's bag to the Coliseum.
No, that's Frank.
Then he waddled away, waddle.
Wow.
Was he wearing one of those hats they wear when they highlight your hair? Like, it was like he was just like straight out of the salon. I couldn't tell what that was. Either that or a 40s football helmet.
Or
would
he's
say
fixing to perform surgery.
Yeah, those little hat / helmet type things were popular back in the 40s and 50s in his heyday. Apparently, my wife asked me, she's like, "Why is that guy not facing the TV camera?" I was like, "Because, babe, in his heyday, they didn't have TV, nor do they have cameras." I was like, "He's completely out of his element here."
Yeah.
Do you guys have any knowledge of Spaceman Frank Hickey coming into this?
I only know that, like, I think he was from the 40s and 50s, and something about he lived maybe close to Nashville or something in what was described to me as a wigwam village, like teepee village for Native Americans and stuff. But it was cheap enough for him to live there. And they said whenever you walked into his teepee, like, he had all this wrestling memorabilia and shit like all over the walls and stuff. But it was really kind of decrepit looking.
You know how hard it is to hang a picture on a teepee wall?
I've got so much stuff hanging in this room right now. I don't know that any of it would hang effectively in a teepee whatsoever. Spaceman Frank Hickey started wrestling in 1945 and wrestled steadily through the 60s and into the 70s. He literally really did defeat Nature Boy Buddy Rogers for the Jack Pfeffer version of the World Heavyweight Championship in a title reign that only lasted 14 days. But by God, it happened. It's on the record. He worked under no less than 10 different masked identities throughout his career before finally settling in with the Spaceman persona in the early 1960s. And in 1993, when this show aired, as he waddled out there like he had a corn cob up his ass, he was 78 years old.
Jeez.
And he actually, this is May the 8th, 1993. And Spaceman would actually pass away in just a few short months in December of 1993.
Wow.
So let's get another shot. If you're watching the video cast, there's a shot of him and Brian right there.
Kind of looks like a wax figure, doesn't he?
He's something, man. I had heard that name, and Mick Foley referenced him in his first book at one point, and very briefly and vaguely. And I had seen pictures. When I was a kid and went to a spot show in West Point, Mississippi, Mr. Coffee was out there selling like grab bags, and they had random pictures in it and different things. And one of the pictures was Spaceman Frank Hickey in a wheelchair with Brian Christopher standing over him, about teasing that he's about to punch him. And I was like, why is there this? Because at the time I was during a blackout period where I couldn't see USWA in my area. And I'm like, who is this old man in a wheelchair with this thing on his head? And Brian, like, what is this picture? And it was years later before I found out who he was and what the context of it all was. And so going back now and seeing this video this week, to me, I'm not going to say it's one of the better parts of the show, but it's certainly one of the more interesting to me parts of the show, and fills in a few blanks and answers a few questions from many, many years ago for me. So anything else you want to say about Brian and Spaceman before we move on to who comes out next, which will kind of be a continuation of Brian and the Spaceman?
Well, I just wonder. I mean, as you know, all respect to whatever he's done in the past, but as decrepit as he is, I wonder, like, who's spearheading this? Is this like a Lawler thing, or it's got to be somebody that really looked up to him to care enough to obviously pay him to come and do a shot on TV come Monday night, and God knows what else they had him wrapped into. Like, or do you think that that's Frank? I doubt it's him reaching out saying, "Hey, can I get on TV?" This
is Brian's fingerprints all over it. Just, you know, it the way he kind of mocks it, but he doesn't. You know, he puts him over as like, this guy's a legend, you know, but you can tell what Brian's doing here. It's genius, really. It's before they used to come out and they'd have like little people come out dressed, or they'd make a mockery, or like when DX came out dressed as the Nation of Domination. It was that before that, you know. And Brian was also noticed, you know, he came out him and Spellbinder came out as Doug and Tommy before, you know. So this has Brian's fingerprints all over it.
Yeah, and like I even had to kind of explain to Rosie, because Rosie's like, why is he bringing out this 80-year-old guy as his tag team partner, and what's he even supposed to do? And I'm like, it's a joke on Brian's part, and like you were just explaining there, Richard, the joke is Brian is basically saying that it's Frank Morrell is the same age as this guy. They're from the same era, and that actually he's older than, you know, Frank Morrell's older than Frank Hickey. And also at the same time, the arrogance of like, me and this old bag of bones here can beat Koko B, Ware, and Frank Morrell. That's how confident I am. I said, I think that's probably lost on a lot of people because they're just so taken aback by this guy's appearance, you know, barely able to shuffle his. I mean, as you see him shuffling out there, you're just like, how the hell is this guy going to get up into the ring?
Right.
And once he gets in said ring, what could he possibly do that's not going to break a hip or potentially kill him? So
it's like
when we get to the point of the show where we start talking about, you know, would you buy a ticket? Would you not? I'm not going to lie. Perhaps just the sheer intrigue of what are they going to do with this old man and how's it going to play out? Are we going to witness a death? Might lead to go, and I'll let you guys elaborate more on that as we get to that point in the show. But to me, that would definitely be a selling point of like, what's going to happen here? So we take another break, and now Frank Morrell and Koko B, Ware, because we've established the pattern. You hear from one half of the Monday night match, and then you hear from the other half immediately following the break. There's very formulaic at this point. Brian and the Spaceman have come out here and challenged Frank Morrell and Koko B, Ware. They've accepted. Frank and Koko have both said that they will not do anything to cause bodily harm to Brian's partner. Koko and Frank Morrell together as a tag team. If you're watching the video cast, here's a shot of it standing side by side. Again, poor Frank has nothing resembling a neck. It's just a bow tie laying on his chest. Like you would think his chin was the only thing holding that bow tie to his chest, because there's no evidence of a neck whatsoever. It's just a head directly on a torso. But what did you guys think of this interview from Koko and Frank?
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, we didn't need it, to be honest.
Did we need their feedback? Did we need them to have to answer to that? I mean, it put them in an awkward spot, really. It's like, what are you supposed to go out here and say to this?
Yeah. Like, what would they have said that would have been anything? Like, it would have been hilarious. They're like, we're going to beat the shit out of that old man. Brian, you've picked the wrong partner.
No, Brian, you picked the right one because it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty cool that both of them came out there and affirmed, you know, like they were calling him Mr. Hickey and stuff like that. They said, we're not going to do anything to harm you. We're not touching you, blah, blah, blah. Brian, you're as good as dead come Monday night.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought they did the right thing for what they were handed, you know.
I would imagine this would make Koko sick. So sick he could just throw up in Brian's mouth. I mean,
and I'm sure that Spaceman is probably going to get sick and throw up in his own mouth.
All that tapioca everywhere.
So What's funny to me is outside of the Moondogs, Koko Ware has probably injured more people in the USWA. I'm not saying he was a dangerous worker in general, but he was hell on these enhancement guys. If you go back to the 80s, he's dropping people directly on top of their head with these brain busters. And later on in the USWA, when he turns heel, he's just beating the brakes off these poor guys, like just stiff as hell. So I'm just imagining, as you look around the locker room, like, all right, we're bringing in 78-year-old Spaceman Frank Hickey. Who's the safest people we could put him in the ring with? And somebody's like, how about Koko and Frank Morrell? And they're like, well, yeah, Frank's not going to break an egg with anything he does, but Koko could literally kill this dude with one punch, like. But like you said, clearly Koko respects the guy. And again, I'm not saying Koko was dangerous. He just could beat the shit out of somebody if he felt it was necessary. So let's hope he doesn't feel it necessary this Monday night when they get in the ring for this huge, huge tag team match. Now, things get interesting in the next segment as we are getting ready to meet a new character. It's not somebody we haven't seen, but it's definitely a new character. Folks, let's all meet Johnny Polo.
Let me tell you something, Dave Brown. I've got something to say to you and all my fans out there. I've been living a bit of a lie lately. For the last couple of years, in fact. I told all these people my name was Scotty Flamingo, and actually it isn't. You see, I'm from a very wealthy family, and my parents, sent me to the finest schools, the finest military academies as a child. When I was 16, they bought me a Corvette for my birthday, brand new. They sent me to Harvard University to get my education, and they wanted me to go to law school. But I said, no, I want to be a professional wrestler. So they said, well, what we'll do then is we'll buy you your own wrestling company, and we'll let you be the big star. But I said, no, I want to do this on my own. I want to prove to myself that I can stand on my own 2 feet and do it all by myself, without cheating, without their money, without breaking rules or anything like that. I was going to prove to everyone that I could do it all by myself.
So Scotty Flamingo levels with us, guys, and he lets us know that, you know what? His name is not really Scotty Flamingo, but he's actually Johnny Polo of the California Polos, and he was a rich kid who decided that he wanted to earn his way through the wrestling business on his own without any help. But for some reason now he's decided that's not what he's going to do. He's going to let everybody know that he's not Scotty Flamingo. He's actually Johnny Polo. When in reality, he was recently fired from WCW, and since he's been in the since he's been in the USWA, he's been getting seen by the WWF as they're tracking USWA for all the talent they're sending down there. And he's now been signed by the WWF, and they have decided that he will now be known as Johnny Polo. And so we're easing into that down here in Memphis. But Dave Brown is clearly not on board with that shit at all.
The man's mom named him Flamingo. I'm going to call him Flamingo.
He even worked in a Scotty the Body in the later match as well. Like he's not letting go of it. But yeah, I remember as a kid thinking, why is he coming out here doing this? But if you think about it, he's kind of like the John Morrison, Johnny Nitro of that era. By this point, this is like his, fifth, sixth gimmick, something like that. And he's still young. But yeah, us not knowing that he had gotten signed, it didn't make sense back then. But now, you're saying what you said makes perfect sense. They wanted to reform him. But hell, later on in the show, he comes out dressed up as Scotty Flamingo to have the match. So I don't know.
Clearly, he had a Johnny Polo outfit for managing and announcing purposes, but he surely still had his Scotty Flamingo wrestling gear, which makes you wonder just how quickly this all came together before this Saturday morning, airing of this show. Because he's still wearing the boots with the flamingos on them and the jacket, all of them. He's straight up Scotty Flamingo when he comes back. So I really don't blame Dave. And if you're just looking up at the ring, you forget this guy come out and told us 30 minutes ago that his real name isn't Scotty Flamingo. That would be ridiculous. Clearly, that's made up. His real name's Johnny Polo. And it just so happens his name's Polo, and he dresses like a polo player, which is just really, really, fortunate that it worked out that way for him. But I just feel like he probably had flown up to Stanford and they gave him this outfit and they're like, all right, here, you're Johnny Polo, wear this now. And he's like, okay.
Yeah, you can't sit that hog in the riding crop. It just won't work. Just fall out all over the place.
They're like, you got to at least wear this during your promos. Like, it's bad enough in the ring, but we can't have nobody's listening to you, and all they can see is, Damien crawling around the bag, if you will. Put it in Jake the Snake terms.
Oh, good Lord. That's fun.
Anywho, the new unified champion, Scotty would go on to introduce us. It's funny that weird Papa Shango music is playing in the background through his entire promo there.
Yeah.
If you wonder what that sound was, it's not just bad sound quality. It's actually the Papa Shango theme song, if you want to call it that.
Well, it's like he didn't tell him he didn't tell him he was going to go out there and reintroduce himself. They're like, all right, go out there and introduce your man, Papa Shango. He's like,
yeah, because Dave seemed genuinely annoyed when he's like, can we get him out here?
How about Papa Shango? His music's played twice now, all the way through. Come on.
Oh, it's Johnny, get out of here now. So we'll skip the rest of the promo and we're going to see the new unified world champion in action, Papa Shango, as he's ready for a match with Jerry Lynn. That's right, folks, not quite ready for prime time. Jerry Lynn is here and he's not quite the whole effing show at this point, but let's take a look at how he fares against the new world champion.
There he is, Papa Shango right there, headed for the ring. He steps up on the ring apron. His opponent standing there waiting. Again, it's a non-title match. This guy's huge. He steps over the top rope.
Look at him. Look at him.
Jerry Lynn. Shango follows up with a right hand. Referee Paul Naylor is trying to count him back. Across the ring. You've seen him in the WWF. Maybe you saw him in that championship match against the King, in which he won the unified belt. Shango slides a foot, that right boot, off the forehead of Jerry Lynn. Shango choking him with the top rope. Scotty Flamingo over on the left of the screen here. He's holding the unified belt while Shango has this match here today.
Hey, Brown, I'm begging you to find an opponent. Look at him. He's just destroying him. He destroyed the King Monday night, took the world title, destroying this guy. There isn't a man in the USWA that can stop Papa Shango.
Well, that's the word from Scotty Flamingo out here in some kind of riding gear, claiming to be
Flamingo. That's Johnny Polo. Johnny Polo.
Johnny Polo. Yeah, Scotty Flamingo, as we know him. There's a count of three. This one's all over. And Papa Shango.
Fuck yourself, Scotty Flamingo. I'm going to call you Scotty Flamingo.
So here we see Papa Shango getting the win with a 69 cover that would make Joey Ryan blush.
Putting that staff on his face.
Voodoo staff.
Him with that voodoo stick right in the mouth. I thought, okay.
I figured you would say, if your grandmother would say, if Scotty Flamingo did that to somebody, he'd kill him.
She wouldn't. Yeah, she wouldn't watch this match though. It had voodoo in it. She wasn't a fan of other religions.
Believing that. I'm there watching that man with that skull. How? Lord help him.
So that was a pretty rough looking shoulder breaker there that put poor Jerry Lynn away. So, of course, this is Charles Wright, who had been here previously as the Soul Taker a couple of years before this. He would go on to the WWF and be Papa Shango, as we see here. And then later from there, he would go on to be Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine, and then Kama, the militant black man of the Nation of Domination. And, of course, the fun-loving pimp, the Godfather. In the line of Charles Wright gimmicks over the years, where does Papa Shango rank for you guys? And what do you think about this voodoo character in 1992?
I always thought that they missed the boat with Papa Shango because they didn't really do much with him. This is the most I think I've seen him work was in Memphis. He had a couple squash matches. He did the thing at WrestleMania 8 where he was late hitting the ring, and he did the thing with the Ultimate Warrior where he made him like bleed oil and puke, which was really cool. Scared the hell out of me as a kid. But they didn't really do as much with him as they should have, I thought.
Yeah, but for me, yeah, Shango is like number one. That's Shango.
We're Shango.
That's number one, and then Godfather number two. But even as a kid, knowing that Papa Shango was the Soul Taker, I knew the Soul Taker was a bad motherfucker, and I just figured he learned voodoo along the way, and that's what he was calling it because the tattoos gave it away. And they really put over the tattoos when he was the Soul Taker. I remember Soul Taker being, I guess it was Memphis TV, or maybe it was the Dallas one on ESPN. But either way, he was talking about, I was under the needle for 20 hours or however many it was. And I just, as a kid, I was like, oh my God, that was really crazy. But yeah, to me, Papa Shango was special because he had worked with the Ultimate Warrior and done all that stuff with him. And that was just really impactful to me as a kid because the Warrior was, either one or two to me.
I love how you said he learned voodoo. Like he wrote a letter. It's like, there's two things that the Soul Taker loves now. I have moved to New Orleans, and now I have a love for taking souls and a voodoo woman named Phyllis. It's like he learned voodoo.
Well, it had been 2 years. Maybe he had a voodoo sensei.
Yeah.
That's a great reference by Richard there. But I have to know for a fact that he and Danny Davis rode together each day to the same university. And while Danny shuffled off to the class, or not Danny, Ken Wayne. I'm sorry. I'm getting my nightmares confused, folks. That is fucked up.
Oh, God.
Maybe I'll go back and edit this part out. But while he rode to the university with Ken Wayne every day. And while Ken Wayne went in to get his master's in terror, then Charles Wright went and learned voodoo. And so once he got his degree, and I don't know that he got his master's. I think he just got a bachelor's of science in voodoo.
Just a 2-year program.
Yeah.
He just did it, get in, get out, get back to the wrestling, But yeah, he's pretty much most widely remembered through most fans from this era for that whole Ultimate Warrior scenario you laid out earlier with the bleeding oil and puking and at this point his run, he's pretty much past his run in the WWF. They don't know what to do with him, so they're sending him down to Memphis to win the title. And then we'll be shipping him off to repackage him again sooner rather than later. Then we get what I felt like was a bit of an uninspired promo from the King. He talked about being disappointed in allowing the unified world title to be won by someone from another company and so on and so forth. But it just, I don't know, it felt sort of flat. Like he showed way more enthusiasm later in the show when he was promoting his appearance at the grand opening of the tobacco superstore in Forest City, Arkansas, than he did promoting his big rematch with Papa Shango. Am I wrong in that assessment? And maybe I'm just crazy this week. Maybe I'm tired. I don't know.
No, I was thinking last night watching this, I was like, is King sick? He's like distracted. He was not even halfway in it because a sleepy Jerry Lawler could have cut a better promo than what he cut. It was just like he was, I wrote all this down. I memorized it. And I'm out here saying it. This is all it is. He seemed preoccupied, like he had a big court case or some shit coming up.
I love how the picture you showed, like he was trying to tell Dave, like his favorite flavor of Kool-Aid. And he's like explaining it. Well, you got tropical punch, right, Dave? And you got grape. But grape, a lot of people think grape is worse than tropical punch because it's, purple and not red.
I see that as the moment right before the ice cream headache.
Dave is looking down at him like, what are you talking about, Jerry? Like, God, I wish Corey was here to do this interview right now. Yeah, I like the purple stuff.
Well, that's not a shocker.
Keep that Sunny D. Next, Dave Brown tells us that it seems wherever Jeff Jarrett is recently, Brian Christopher seems to show up as he pitches to a clip from last Monday night's tag team title match where Jeff Jarrett and Billy Travis challenged Simply Divine, Rex King, and Steve Dahl for the USWA tag team titles. And Brian Christopher interfered and used a chain on both of them, causing the match to end in, surprise, surprise, a disqualification, to the surprise of absolutely no one, least of all us. So after the clip airs, Dave brings out King and Dahl for a promo. Steve Dahl, who every week drops more sons in his promo than Stone Cold Steve Austin in 96, talks about the fact that Simply Divine is a tag team unit and they are the champs for a reason. And then Rex King then chimes in that the TV station is asking female fans to scale back on all the fan mail being sent in for Simply Divine. And then Dahl goes on to say that this week's shot will be Jarrett and Travis's last shot at the tag team titles. And then as King starts saying something else, the commercial bumper music starts to play and they just go straight to a fucking commercial mid-sentence. We're gonna use that here in a minute when we take our next commercial break. But before we get to that, what did you guys, how thrilled were you with this promo from Simply Divine?
I always get flashbacks like I'm at the skating ring when I'm a young kid and I just kind of wander over to where the older teenagers are. And that's who I see, Steve Dahl and Rex King. They just, all the women want me, you know, son. they're like teenage villains, you know, but I like it. They were very entertaining. They got to be something to get away from that, their tights.
Yeah. Did you just compare Steve Dahl to Wooderson, by the way? all right, son. We're going to take these titles.
They're so full of themselves, you know, but it's like childlike bullshit.
Yeah. I just couldn't get past those tights. I hate it.
So that was like, you guys like guys wearing thongs over a singlet? Be a lot cooler if you did. Yeah, dude, right, you can't wear singlets with thongs made onto them and then come out and drop son every other word and try to sound like a couple of badasses. Like
it's conflicting arguments there, you know. Yeah. And I know they were good workers, but I just never could get into these two, man. I never could. I mean, if I'm not wrong, wasn't it Steve Dahl and Mike Enos that was wrestling in WCW when Scott Hall came out with the NWO thing to start it?
Yes.
And they talk about that now, and they're like, people forget what match was going on. They're like, it was a snooze fest. It was Steve Dahl and Mike Enos. And I was like, yeah, but nobody ever really said that until then, you know.
Right.
And they wonder why fans got behind Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Like, well, he come out and saved us from one of these mid-card massacres in here between Mike Enos and, I mean, they probably would have cheered damn near. You could have sent Doink out there and personally.
Yeah, thank God.
Please, Vince, have them invade us right now. Send the Brooklyn Brawler and Harvey Whippleman. We're good.
Nobody was clamoring for an end to that match either. They just kind of let it go. They're like, you know what? It's good enough.
And they just kind of just shuffle off like, oh, that dude that doesn't work here just hit the ring. We probably should just leave. Like, okay, if everything you ever learned, they say they did that for realism. And I love the fact they had him come through the crowd and all that. But it's like, if we're talking like old school realism, two guys are having a match in the ring and some dude who theoretically doesn't work there comes out of the crowd and comes to the ring, they would have at least attempted to beat the shit out of Scott Hall. They made no attempt. They just casually just stop. Oh, this is happening. Okay. And then they just turn and leave in the middle of their freaking match. It was like
Steve Dawes like, is that Razor Ramon?
What the hell's Razor Ramon doing here?
I think it's him.
I didn't want to just like crap all over Steve Dahl or anything. You know, like I said, I feel like they were good workers. It was just that character never drew me in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, he was very talented. Like the Southern Rockers tag team got over better as a baby face than this Simply Divine presentation, but also understand Southern Rockers couldn't necessarily be heels. Super over in Portland, was a big star in Portland. Never got quite the level of fame here in Memphis that he did in Portland. But I mean, to your point, and this isn't a knock on either guy, but as you're watching Nitro that night, or at least I thought this, I remember watching it live as it happened. you would have like your star against one of those guys. You would have had like Chris Benoit come out and wrestle Stephen Dahl, and then you would have had Mongo McMichael come out and wrestle Mike Enos, and you're like, what the hell are these two wrestling each other for? Which one of these guys am I rooting for? Who's the baby face? Why do I care? And then here comes Scott Hall, and you're like, oh, that's why these guys was wrestling. So a match could just dissipate and no one in the arena or at home would give one single fuck. They're just like, what the hell's Razor Ramon doing here? And why is he wearing a Canadian tuxedo? He's all denim right now. That's an odd look for a Cuban from Miami.
But WCW did that all the time. But yeah, like I said, I didn't want to like crap over Steve Dahl. I don't think that character, I never feared it. I never got behind it. I didn't respect it. It was just there. And I feel like he was better than what he was portrayed as with that character and everything.
Meanwhile, Vince McMahon felt differently. He saw a clip of Memphis and he went, oh, they're doing that very well. That is very well done. Hey, wait a minute.
Right.
Fly those guys to my house tomorrow. I got an idea. Bruce, you're gonna love it, pal. Same tights with the same thong, but we add bow ties and call them, wait for it, well done. And we'll give them Dr. Harvey Whippleman as their manager for a while anyway.
Yeah.
So, as we come back from the commercial, we now go to the flip side of the coin because, again, that's what we do. It's time to hear from Jeff Jarrett and Billy Travis about their final shot at the tag team titles coming up this Monday night. And Jeff has to address Brian Christopher first because, he's kind of got two different angles, two different irons in the fire here, if you will. So he first has to talk about Brian Christopher. He puts over Spaceman Frank Hickey before he sells the match coming up Monday night, where Brian will be locked in a cage at ringside to hopefully prevent any more DQ run-ins. And after Jarrett gets, all his stuff in about the potential feud or the current feud with Brian Christopher and then the tag team title match this Monday, he just walks off. He's out. Bye. And there's Billy Travis just standing there by himself, and now it's time for him to cut his promo. And let's take a look at these guys out here. There's Jeff. He's got suspenders on. Billy's got his sweet silver jacket on, and Travis is just there alone to give his thoughts on the match. And then Travis just starts yelling. He just gets fired up real freaking quick and starts yelling about what's going to happen. But for some reason, that just came off funny to me. Like, I don't know. Nothing Billy Travis does isn't amusing and, like, funny. Like, it's everything he does is kind of fun. And so, for whatever reason, I just couldn't take him seriously here. How did this whole promo come off to you guys as far as the Jarrett part and then the Billy Travis part?
What was Billy looking at there in that picture, Gene? No, not that.
I don't know, but that's the face he made after he saw it.
I don't know what he was looking at down there on Jeff Jarrett. He's hog checking a little bit. I look at Jarrett's hog. Like a nice hog. Healthy hog.
H-O-G.
H-O-double-G.
Yeah, probably mid sneeze in that screenshot right
there. I did like how he was like, well, Jeff's all fired up. I've never seen him like that. But man, did whatever they did, and I love Jeff. Like Jeff Jarrett, one of my favorites. Even got an action figure of him this past week of Jeff Jarrett. Jeff was always one of my favorites. And growing up in Memphis in the 90s, you had to like Jeff. He was like one of our top baby faces. But man, his promo skills, like they were not great here. And like you could see he's getting stumbled over words a lot. And, you could attribute that to him being mad. But I know, like, you could see it in his eyes. He's like, damn it.
Like,
I didn't just say
boy,
that.
Jeff's really mad every week, it seems, because he's getting tongue-tied in every promo he does. He's super mad, guys.
Yeah. But, I mean, I guess that's why, like, when he got to WWE, or WWF back in the day, they slowed him down. And I used to hate that, like, watching his promos and everything, he'd be like, everybody, like everything was way more measured and slow. Even like he would get in the ring and do his little strut and everything. It's like, well, that might have been WWE, or WWF, doing that to him, because it's obvious here when Jeff is like, feels like he's pressured and in a hurry, he makes mistakes. And I don't know why I just decided to focus on that, but it just stood out to me during this interview.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah, this whole thing, like aside from Billy just getting all of a sudden pissed off, I just kind of like you're talking about, just zonked out. It just same stuff. It just nothing really stood out to me besides Billy Joe just getting all fired up there like that. Everything else is just standard everyday Jeff Jarrett stuff,
It felt like you wanted Billy Travis to go, I'm yelling right now, and I don't know why, but I feel like I should.
It was the old Saturday Night Live, voice modulation is real.
So we're going to take our second and last podcast commercial break, and we're going to circle back around. I mentioned the way they cut Simply Divine off. They were out here cutting their promo, Steve Dawes dropping sons left and right, and all of a sudden they pitch back and forth, and when it gets back around to Rex King's turn, check out how they did my boy Rex King. This is funny to me, at least. No one else may think it's funny, but y'all check this out as we go to break, and then we'll come back with our huge television main event. Here.
You got one more shot at the belt. Like we said before, we're the ultimate tag team right here. Tell about it. Tell what it is. Jeff Jarrett, Billy Joe Travis. Line it out, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
Oh my God. That was horrible. Not only they cut him off, they chose that replay.
That was going to be my next thing to ask y'all. Did they have found a worse spot to replay in slow motion? No less.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Do you have any shitty clips of them doing Ring Around the Rosie going over the top rope? Yeah, I think we got a lot of those.
That was bad.
Jeff's like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to stumble through my promo later. Can you make them look like complete assholes before I come out there? And he was like, I got you, Jeff.
Yeah.
You're my grandson. So that leads to our big main event 8-man tag team match. And folks, you couldn't come up with two more random teams if you drew them out of a fishbowl WCW Battle Bowl style. Holy shit. Not to mention the fact, if you're keeping score at home, and I don't know if you guys realize this was going to be only the third match on an entire wrestling show today. 3 matches total. But boy, is this one a doozy, as our main event brings us Brian Christopher, Johnny Polo Flamingo, JC Ice, and the Master of Terra taking on Jerry the King Lawler, Billy Travis, and their partners, Bill and Steve Marino.
Isn't
Now,
it so like convenient that the Master of Terra turned on Danny Davis and dropped that leg drop on him, and now he's in this main event?
Now, I know you guys had to be disappointed in general that by the fact that the Lone Rangers, aka the Marino brothers, are in TV main events 2 weeks in a row. But more so than that, the fact that the Chiron showed that Jeff Gaylord was supposed to be in this match read the screen, but instead we got Billy Travis. So, wow, talk about a free upgrade.
And you said something very important there, Gene. You said this was the third match. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Memphis Wrestling? Wasn't that show an hour and 30-minute runtime?
Mm-hmm.
So that
90-minute show, so that's average.
Every 30 minutes.
There you go.
Well, this program though was pretty clip and promo heavy. You know, they had several different people doing promos, and then they just go to break.
Yeah, it was a lot like what I used to refer to WWE as when they would run Monday Night Raw, and it would be I referred to them as earlier tonight. Because every time they come back from commercial, they would show the same clip they showed 3 or 4 times, and they would say, "Earlier tonight, this is what happened. Earlier tonight." Well, this show should have been last Monday night, because all they did was clip it up with what happened the Monday night before. It's like, well, why do I even need to go to your Monday night show if you're going to show me all the clips of what happened?
Yeah, I've always thought that, especially on the long clips where you really get the entire gist of everything that happened in a match from Monday night. I can't find anybody. I've talked directly to numerous people who were involved in the USW at this time, and nobody can definitively tell me who was booking and running TV in this era. I mean, I know the main bookers were Jarrett and Lawler, but I've also been told that in this era, Lawler is now getting more involved with the WWF, and Jarrett is being groomed to where if Vince McMahon, that trial doesn't go his way, he's going to be going up help run the WWF. And if they barely had their finger in the pie at this point of what was going on in the USWA. Mike Needham told me it was Mike Samples, and I've talked to several people, and they're like, no, Mike Samples didn't touch the book until way later than this. Like, he didn't book full time to 97, 4 years from now. But nobody will own up to it because it's the formula they're using. I realize they did some of the things that we complain about on here for years, but this formulaic thing, like I mentioned, of just, all right, we bring out the people for Monday night's card. This team comes out, then that team comes out. Then there's a match, and the person that's wrestling person A runs in. Opponent B runs in on opponent A, and then we get a disqualification. And it's just the most dense person in the world could figure out this formula by now and know exactly how it's going to play. It's just a matter of who are you plugging into those spots. Yeah. But it's not a matter of what's going to happen. It's just who's getting plugged in where and when are you going to show it. But I would really like to know, I'd really like to have an idea of when things are going to kind of move past this, because holy cow, it is really frustrating watching these shows. And I realize I just got into a rant that really should have been saved for the, hey guys, what'd you think about the show? Since we were here and kind of talking about it, we kind of trailed off. But like we mentioned earlier, Scotty came out for this promo, and he come out for his promo in full Johnny Polo garb. He comes out for this match in full Scotty Flamingo attire. And Dave Brown reacted accordingly by continuing to call him Scotty the Body, as you mentioned, Josh, Scotty the Body Flamingo at different points. And, I'm having some fun with the participants, obviously, and the weird combo. But honestly, I was kind of pleasantly surprised this wasn't a bad match for what it was, for such a weird conglomeration of people and the Marinos being inexperienced. There were some fun little spots sprinkled in this match throughout, like the one where Lawler kept ducking and Master of Terra kept punching his partners. And So let's take a look at a couple of examples of just, a couple of fun things that happened, and we'll see how it ended and talk about where that leaves us. So let's check out a quick clip of our main event here, 8-man tag team action.
Brian Christopher is claiming Jerry Lawler is afraid of the Master of Terror. Wrong. Oh, look out, they've got him tied up in the corner. Two of them holding him in there. Master of Quarter takes a swing at him. Lawler ducks out of the way. Christopher's holding him. Lawler again ducks. And Master of Terror has just hit every one of his partners with a fist as Jerry Lawler ducks out of the way. And now here comes Scotty Flamingo. Here comes JC Eyes. Here comes Christopher. But across down on the floor. Lawler, Flamingo in the ring. Christopher being chased by one of the young stallions. Across the way, Billy Travis and the Master of Terror. Steve Marino, JC Ice going at it. They're all over the place, fans. In the ring, that's Marino and Lawler. Well, you see what I mean about the difficulty in keeping it straight. Look out, here comes Papa Shango. Lawler being held by Flamingo. Shango jumps in. Look out! Lawler jumps out of the way. And Shango hits Scotty Flamingo with a fire. Count is 1, 2, 3. Lawler gets the victory.
Holy shit. I feel like they gave Shango grief about how sad his little explosion was out of his skull on Monday night. And he's like, I got it. Okay, don't worry. Don't worry. I took it back up there. They revamped it. Watch this. And poor Scotty's like, Jesus Christ. So first takeaway, I'm going to pitch to y'all here in a minute, but my first takeaway from this, as we watch the part of the clip where Lawler's being held by each guy in the corner and he ducks and Ken Wayne punches. Lawler jumps around celebrating like the kid that broke the pinata at a birthday party. Like, that is so un-Lawler like the way.
Yeah,
the way that cracked me up. I'm like, I can't believe this is the same guy that gave that comatose promo 30 minutes ago with his jumping around like.
I think what we learned here, though, is if you grab Lawler's arms behind his back, things are going to go awry for you. I mean, everybody that did it on this one got either punched or fire shot in their face.
So that's hilarious. Polo hooks Lawler's arms, clearly holding him for a spot, and Shango is nowhere in sight. So much so that Lawler had to break free the first time and start fighting him again for a few moments. And then I guess somebody knocked on the bathroom door and like, Shango, get off the shitter. Scotty's out there holding Lawler for your spot. And he's like, oh my God, where's my freaking Roman candlestick? Yeah. And he goes running out there. So then Scotty hooks him again and holds him in the exact same spot they were in before. And Shango runs out and fires off a freaking 4th of July fireworks display straight into Scotty's face. It engulfs his whole head. It was like the old Michael Jackson video back in the day that set his head on fire. And Lawler managed to get the pin. But
here's a question. Had Lawler not moved, wouldn't that have been bad for both of them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like his partner was getting shrapnel. Either way, the way that fired out of there, Scotty was getting sacrificed. That was just happening. But we were just hoping to take Lawler out in the process, I guess.
Is this Scotty's goodbye?
I feel like we just wrote Scotty off TV, right?
Yes.
I put that in my notes. Like, this has got to be the end of Scotty Polo here in the USWA after he takes that huge shot to the face.
Well, yeah, you'd have to think that, because if you know that he just recently signed to WWF, like, I can't see Scotty sticking around. Yeah, it's about my legacy in Memphis now, man. I gotta end right, Like, no, that's it. He's done. He's going to Connecticut.
Now, I know we've kind of established that it's futile to ponder the rules at different times here in Memphis, but I was thinking, as Lawler drops down and pins Johnny Flamingo here, Why would the match even still be going, and why would the referee count 3 once this thing has broken to an 8-way clusterfuck for 2 or 3 minutes now? This thing has lost complete control. Shango has now come in and fired off this, freaking huge fireworks display into Scotty's face. But we still go ahead and count the pinfall. So, I mean, I got to say, I'm happy, though. I mean, sure, there were shenanigans in the first and the third matches, but thank God for once we had 3 matches on TV. None ended in a disqualification, and at least somebody got their hand raised in the end. It wasn't just run-ins that caused the DQ that made the match go nowhere. Because to me, that, Papa Shango calls Lawler to get the win over his alleged manager, so that puts a little something on Monday night's show. It's building towards something that wasn't just and Shango runs in and attacks Lawler, ring the bell, and then he just beats down on Lawler for a few minutes. It was a little more creative than what we've been seeing, right?
Yeah, I mean, the sheer lack of matches, though, I honestly couldn't remember the last time I had saw a match. By the time the main event came on, I was like, well, surely this is it. The matches are done after Jeff came out and started talking. I was like, well, they're wrapping the show up. And then I was surprised to see another match in the main event because I thought they were done, and you could tell they were kind of pressed for time.
I know I was done, but we'll talk a little more about that here in a moment. Right now, let's let Dave tell us about the card for Monday night.
And Brandywine in a 6-person match to open the card at the Mid-South Coliseum come Monday. Following that single match, Jeff Gaylord will be going against Scotty the Body Flamingo in what should be a fine matchup there. Then, the middleweight title. Now, this one right here, Danny Davis, I would have almost put on the against the Master of Terror in this one here as the winner of the TV title. Special challenge match comes up after that one. Koko B, Ware, and Frank Morrell will be going against Brian Christopher, and Brian has as his partner, listed as his partner. The man is a legend. I know some of you wrestling fans may not be aware of Frank Hickey, but for old-time football fans, the name Red Grange is a legend. For baseball players, people like Ty Cobb, of course, and for wrestling fans, Frank Hickey is indeed a legitimate legend. But I mean, come on, frankly, fans, he's past the prime, and Brian Christopher is just making fun of Frank Morrell is what he's trying to do, but he may end up paying for it because Frank and Koko say essentially now it's going to be a handicap match, the two of them against Brian Christopher, because neither is going to lay a hand on the legend Frank Hickey. There's the match. Then the USWA tag titles will be at stake. Rex King and Steve Dahl will be going against Jeff Jarrett and Billy Travis. See that stipulation up there at the top? Brian Christopher is going to be in a cage during the match. Maybe that'll keep him out of the action with the USWA tag titles at stake. Then the World Unified title rematch. The brand new champion, Papa Shango, will be defending this time against the King, Jerry Lawler. And
Okay, now was it just me in the first half of this rundown? Have you ever heard Dave Brown stutter and stammer and more than he did trying to rattle off them first few matches? Holy shit.
I can tell you what happened, Gene. I can tell you what happened. Dave Brown was about to make a faux pas. He was about to say, I would put money on Danny Davis winning. And then the good Lord held his tongue because he knew Dave Brown ain't a liar. Dave Brown wasn't going to put no money on Danny Davis winning because Danny Davis don't win.
That was all I could think when I heard this, because Dave started out like he was going to say, I would have put money on Danny Davis winning that match. And he just
and
couldn't
he
do
could
it.
not get it out.
He's like, I would have.
I was thinking at that point there was a fucking gas leak in the studio because Lawler's promo was flat and it sucked. Dave stammering around. Who else was it? Jeff Jarrett? He couldn't get his shit out. It was like there's some kind of leak
that
going
would
on.
explain why Papa Shango's skull went up so much more than what it did the night before. They're like, holy shit! Did you see that? Oh, there was a gas leak
there, Richard.
That was a gas leak. It was only supposed to be a spark, and it went up like the 4th of July.
There's something to that.
I think you totally solved the mystery of why the fireworks shot out much better here. But yeah, these were some rough promos, and maybe that's why Billy just started yelling for no reason. Because he thought that's how he was going to power through it. Let me tell you something. I'm not going to stutter like an idiot. I'm not going to stammer. I'm not going to sound like a fool. Get ready. It's simply divine.
That was his body trying to help him like overcome so he doesn't die.
I'm not getting sleepy. I'm not getting sleepy. As he's going down.
That's why he didn't show up, because he was fucking dead. And Billy Travis had to come out there and fill in for him.
Rex King's like, hey, when we get out there, I'm gonna say that there's been a lot of women sending in fan mail to us. And Steve Dahl's like, okay, I'm just gonna wing it, dude, and just get there. Let me tell you something, son. Jeff Jarrett, we're gonna stomp a mud hole in your ass. We're gonna walk it dry. By God. All 316. That's all I can hear. Every time he says son, I just hear Steve Austin, and I'm like, but it's before, obviously he didn't rip it off because this is pre-Stone Cold. It's like, Steve Austin watched some old USWA, and after he left, and go, son,
Doll 316 says I'm gonna bore your ass.
Let me tell you something, son. You're not going to do anything to me with a thong halfway up your ass. You hear me? Got them turd cutters on. You're not going to threaten Stone Cold. Oh, guys, it's
hell of a man to strut around the South, though, back in this day and age. Long, right?
Can you imagine cutting a fart in that thing? Every dog in town would scream. Like,
walk around wearing that, you make Adrian Street look like a freaking tough guy. I mean, it's a bold choice for sure. So it's that time. Let's ask those questions that sometimes you look forward to, and I'm figuring maybe days like today you may sort of dread. I don't know, but let's see how you feel about today's episode. Question number 1: what was your least far? Can't even talk. Guys, what was your turn into Dave? That's what I get for making fun of Dave. Dave's a wonderful man. I got to meet him, and I was pretty excited about it. What was your least favorite part of today's episode? There, I got it out.
The amount of promos and lookbacks. Like you said, we had 3 matches. It was just, to me, this show was boring. I honestly, they could have had 3 matches and been done in 15 minutes, and they stretched it to an hour and a half. I mean, that's literally what they did. Yeah, they stretched it like Stretch Armstrong, and then that thing fell apart. Like, we talk about gas leaks. Like, I felt like I had a gas leak watching this. It was just dreadful. I looked at my wife halfway through, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore.
I hate Gene Jackson.
Yeah. She's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm watching this show, but I'm watching it in fast forward because I cannot do this anymore. So, yeah, it was rough this week.
Yeah, I almost want to echo that because, there wasn't enough matches, and there was a ton of promos and lookbacks. And like you say, I mean, it felt like a fever dream or something. Everybody was stumbling around. You got Ken Wayne out there saying he doesn't necessarily hate anyone, and
but he doesn't like anyone either.
He don't know what he's doing either. It was a jumbled up mess. I mean, like, I do like that there were decisions in the 3 matches, but God, that last one was just a thrown together mess. But hopefully next week they can keep with the same pace of, hey, let's give some decisions, but let's actually maybe try to have 5 matches this time.
This week we had Johnny Polo come out and be like, I'm no longer Scotty Flamingo. I'm Johnny Polo. I hope next week the Master of Terra comes out and goes, I'm no longer the Master of Terra. I'm the Master of Indifference. I don't care. I don't like things. I don't dislike things.
Yeah.
It's just whatever, man. Just like this show.
That could be his name. Whatever, man.
He is the whatever man. Look at him day, the whatever man in there. That's what I've been calling him for 2 years. And so the harder question to answer, I'm quite sure. Number 2, what was your most favorite part of today's episode?
Seeing Papa Shango would have been probably the thing, because, in this day and age, they get a WWE guy come down and he doesn't really stay, or he just comes down from Monday or just comes down like wasn't Giant Gonzalez. He was scheduled to be there once and he didn't even show up at the TV. He was there for Monday night. So just actually seeing the guy, and seeing that he's invested and it's not like he's just coming down to do a favor and leaving. I loved seeing Papa Shango there and just seeing how huge he was in person compared to everybody else. That was probably my favorite part. But yeah, like you said, it was a struggle to find a bright spot in this one. This was mostly clouds.
Well, I put over the decisions in my dislikes, and that is umbrellaed in my likes. It's 3 matches, 3 clear decisions, no matter what those decisions are. Do I like Uncle Danny got beat? No, but it was a clear decision, and it seemed like it's adding to that the stew they got going, him and the Master of Terra, and hopefully it leads to something more interesting. And the main event, as crazily as it was thrown together, and Jeff Gaylord didn't even show up, there was a finish, and it was a big finish. I mean, like, usually you do not see shit like that on Memphis TV. I remember being a kid, and I just rewound over and over that big ass fucking pyro ball, like, because that's not even a fireball, it's a big pyro flash. Like, I remember doing that over and over. So it was cool, but like, it was so boring getting to that point that it almost was work getting to that point. So even though I like that, it's still, I'm not putting a check mark on it by any means.
This show, the Fireball, was basically like going to a Pearl Jam concert and they do Jeremy at the end, and that's what you're there to see. But the whole rest of the concert was a big political speech. Our stuff from the new album. And it's like, this is terrible. I don't want to. And then by the time you get to Jeremy, you're just like, yeah, I get it.
I think both of you guys had very good, articulate, well thought out answers. But I do want to give one response. And a lot of times I'm afraid to go on the record and make a statement without doing my research first, because I'm afraid I might be wrong. But I feel 100% confidence in making this statement and know that I'm right about this. I'm 100% positive that right now on this show, when I asked Richard Mulligan, what was your favorite part? And he said, my favorite part of the show was seeing Papa Shango. No one in recorded history's answer to the question, what was your favorite part of anything, has ever been seeing Papa Shango. Holy shit. That tells you everything you need to. If somebody asked me in the future, like, how was that May 8th episode? I'll tell you how it was. Richard's favorite part was fucking Papa Shango. It's like, oh, wow. And to your point that, it's cool that, Papa Shango of all the WWF people was the one that stuck around. I can just imagine people going like, Shawn Michaels came to town once. Macho Man came to town twice. It's Papa Shango who wins the belt and stays. Yay us. Hooray. We'd have took Boss Man. Come on, man. But he didn't show up. So, all right. So last and certainly not least, and this may come as no surprise, this may be one of the more anticlimactic answers to a question of all time on this show. Would this TV show have inspired you to buy a ticket to Monday night's card if we were still back in 1993?
It inspired me to buy a shotgun and blow my fucking head off.
Just turn the gas on in your house. And just I mean, the only thing, like you said earlier, the only thing that would it would be that weird, perverse, what's going to happen to Mr. Hickey when he tries to get in that ring? Is it going to be like one of those penguins trying to slide on the ice on its belly? How's it going to work?
Is he going to turn to dust like a vampire in the sunlight when they touch him?
I feel like they're going to have him on one of those sheets, like you transport patients. They just pick up the sheet and just put him in the ring that way.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to need a crane to lay him across and then lift him, like when they put those whales back into the ocean and set him over into the ring, and then they let him in the ring. And then, of course, Brian, Koko, and Frank Morrell and the referee for the match will all have to help get him upright on his feet and then do whatever they're going to do in the match. And then later afterwards, they have to lay him back down and then crane him back out of the ring. I just can't see him walking up ring steps. Are you kidding? He's not going to go up the ring steps. He's not going to go rolling under the bottom rope like guys do. How do you get this man inside the ring? Maybe to be like Abdul the Butcher in the 2000. Once he got to where his knees were too shot, they would book him on shows and everybody would attack him on the floor. They would ring the bell and they would just have a match around ringside of him just gratuitously stabbing somebody for about 4 minutes. And then it would be a count out, even though the bell never officially rung when the match started. So how did they get counted out? The match never actually started. And that's just how they got around the fact that Abdullah could no longer get inside of a wrestling ring. So that's the drama for Monday night's card.
I kind of hope he no-shows. I got some stuff to do back at the teepee, guys. I can't be there.
I feel like, though, that picture you're talking about that you saw when you was a kid with him in a wheelchair and stuff, I feel like they just wheeled him out there and Brian was like, I got this. You just sit here like Ron Wright or whatever.
I feel like he got up out of a wheelchair before he waddled through that curtain on today's episode into the studio. Like, I think he got to that point in a wheelchair and they're like, come on, you can do it. Get up, brother. One more time. Just one more time. That's all we need. Okay. Just like when I wrestled Luthez in 1912.
Would have been hilarious if he took 2 steps out of the curtain and did that old man stutter fall.
It just broke his shoulder right there on TV.
They have to have matches around Frank Hickey's painful.
And those assholes would have replayed it in the commercial bumper. Dun dun dun. Dun, 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 dun. And the ending is when he hits the floor. Yeah.
Oh shit.
We have a card change for Monday night, folks. Okay, I'm not going to make that joke. I was about to make a joke. I'm not going to make it.
Man, it would have been so terrible though to have like they don't know how to get. They're trying to get Frank Hickey up. And they can't, but it's live TV. So you got Danny Davis doing arm drags to Wolfie, and you're just here, my hip.
You see this blanket over on the floor where they just thrown a blanket over him, but you still hear him. Damn it, Danny. Is there a ghost in the studio? What's happening right now? Like, that's Spaceman. He's not quite dead.
Danny. They call the ambulance, but the ambulance won't show up because of that Lawler shit from the car. They don't believe it's really somebody hurt.
We got the Marinos.
Scotty Flamingo, Joe Polo comes out and he's like, why are y'all just letting him lay out here dead? We got a freaking voodoo guy come on out here. Come on out, Papa Shango. Bring him back. Andy Kaufman did a bit on stage like that where his grandmother died and they had the freaking voodoo guy come out and bring her back to life. That would have been a great bit for Shango on Memphis TV if they'd have had Spaceman Frank Hickey not really die, but act like he died, and then Shango brings him back. It'd be good heat, brother.
Be like one of those faith healers. Get up, Mr. Hickey. See how you feel now. It's still broken.
Makes him run across the head. It's
He works with that black oil on his forehead.
All I can say is if next week's episode doesn't start with, what the hell was y'all doing out here last week, Dave Brown? Good Lord. Then I don't know what's the point of any of it, but all right, I'm sorry. I don't know how much of that I'm going to edit out, folks, but we digress. We always have to digress really hard and really inappropriately, at least once every episode. That was it.
They deserve it for having a show like that.
I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna laugh all week at the the music playing.
Come on, AI, make that happen for us. Create that scene so we can put the music behind it. All right, folks. We've reached that time on the show where it's time for the brand new, we just introduced it last show, the USWA Retro Wrestling Review Podcast game show. We'll end in disqualification. We're going to give each of these guys a chance to guess, and then we'll see at the end who guesses it right. Now, guys, we have 6 matches scheduled for Monday night. How many of the 6 matches will end in disqualification? Who answered first last time? I do believe it was Josh. Richard, this week, it goes to you. How many matches ends in disqualification?
I want to say we're scheduled for 6 matches. One of those matches probably won't happen, or they'll have 2 in its place. So that's 7 matches. I'm going to say 4 get DQ'd.
Richard says
I'm going
4.
3.
Josh?
I'm going 3.
Josh says 3. All right, folks. May 10th, 1993, Memphis, Tennessee, Mid-South Coliseum. We've been averaging 800 people each week. This week, we dropped to 750 people at the Mid-South Coliseum. In the opening match, PG-13 and Brandywine defeat Miss Texas along with Steve and Bill Marino. We don't have a DQ there. It's an actual finish.
Oh.
In the second match, and if this ain't proof he's on his way out, I don't know what is. Jeff Gaylord defeated Johnny Polo.
What? That 6-minute promo finally paid off.
Finally, he beat it. It would be the only win he would ever get over a WCW and WWF superstar. So soak it in, Jeffrey. And he can add that to his next rant. I beat a guy who wrestled for WCW and WWF within the same year.
At 37 years old.
Scotty the Body Polo Flamingo. I don't remember his name, but I won. Match number 3. Brand new USWA Middleweight Champion Wolfie D defeated the Master of Terror via disqualification.
I'm still in it.
There's one on the board, guys. Match number 4. Birdman Koko B. Ware and referee Frank Morrell defeated Brian Christopher and Spaceman Frank Hickey. And that's all I have to say. There's nothing to add to the end of that.
When Frank Hickey succumbed to old age.
10 count.
Semi-main event for the USWA Tag Team titles. Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Gaylord defeated USWA Tag Team Champions Rex King and Steve Dahl, Simply Divine, via disqualification. Match number 6 in the main event for the USWA Unified World Heavyweight Championship. The champion, Papa Shango, fought to a double disqualification with Jerry the King Lawler, bringing us to 3 DQs out of 6. Our winner this week, our first ever. How many DQs are there going to be? Champion, Josh Bradley. Congratulations.
We'll work that into the intro for our show, Richard Lee. That's
make sure
3
you put that over, Richard. So, all right. So here for a little bit of perspective, we're going to talk about that was on May the 11th, May the 10th. The following day, May the 11th in Louisville, Kentucky. This is mostly the card that we saw in Memphis last week. 250 people at the arena in Louisville, Kentucky came to see, like I say, mostly the same card. Wolfie D over Steve Marino, Miss Texas over JC Ice by DQ, Bill Marino over Night Stalker Tony Falk, Danny Davis over Scotty Flamingo, Koko over Brian Christopher by DQ. Papa Shango defeated Jeff Gaylord in defense of the USWA title because I guess Lawler couldn't be in Louisville. Then in the main event, For the USWA tag team titles, Jeff Jarrett and Danny Davis defeated Rex King and Steve Dahl by disqualification, again in front of 250 people in Louisville, which makes that 750 in Memphis sound a little better. But it's not because, Jesus. Then that following Saturday after television, we run back the previous week's card in front of 200 people at the fairgrounds in Nashville. Same card for the most part, except in the main event, we see Jeff Jarrett and Danny Davis defeat Rex King and Steve Dahl by disqualification. Now, what do you guys notice about the tag team title match from Monday night, the tag team title match from Louisville, the tag team title match from Nashville? Does anything stand out to you about those matches that aren't quite right?
Uncle Danny.
Yeah, I was wondering, how are they going to do TV and say, these are the champions? Because usually they just, split it off and, they do the same finishes. So having different finishes in different towns was what stood out to me, like having different competitors in the matches too.
Well, they can somewhat work around that, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I guess they work around that with the localized promos that they squeeze in. But point being, in those three matches where one was Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Gaylord against Simply Vine, two were Jeff Jarrett and Nightmare Danny Davis, where the hell's Billy Travis?
Right.
Billy Travis walked out of the USWA, no-showed all the cities, apparently over a dispute over, what do you think it was, guys?
The love of money.
That's right. He didn't like his payoffs, and he split. And I can only imagine how poor those payoffs must have been if we're drawing an average of 200 to 250 people at these weekly towns like that. And then Memphis is only drawing 750. I mean, apparently the money just wasn't there.
Yeah.
But we've had a few walkouts recently. We had the Harlem Knights, we had the Moondogs, we had Doug Gilbert. Now we've got Billy Travis. But damn it, the Marinos apparently quite pleased with the hot dog and a handshake they're getting at the end of the night, I'm sure. So
they got jobs at the hardware store anyways. It doesn't matter. We need that TV time, man.
Jerry Jarrett, we'll come cut your grass every week if you'll just keep letting us wrestle on your TV. But again, folks, the highlight of today's show, we had a winner with his guess of 3. Well played, Mr. Briley.
And I wish it was 0. You know what I mean? I hate that I had to guess 3.
This freaking music just kicks in randomly like that. But no, it's one of those times where, like, if it had been less than 3, you'd be happy to have won. It's like, hey, I'll gladly be wrong on this one, just to, But yeah, man, I know people are probably listening to this going like, Jesus Christ, like this is real fun to listen to. 3 guys just dumping on how bad the show was and how grim they think the future is for the show. But our hope is it's going to get better.
Like you're talking about, the wrestlers are leaving it so fucking bad. I mean, watching it translates on TV. That's why nobody's coming to the shows. It sucks.
Yep.
I want to love it because I love Memphis wrestling, but good God, man.
If you think we're giving it a hard time, you waste your time and watch it. See how you feel.
Please do, people. We ask that you please do waste your time and watch it. So kind of the point of this whole thing is, we're tracking a whole year in the USWA and wrestling in general, hell, life in general. But there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be things that they do on TV, and then at the spot shows that affect the overall health of the company, and so that's going to be part of the interesting aspects of this show is watching the peaks and the valleys and what they do and how it translates. That's why I'm glad that here lately we've been having a number for the house. The weeks that we don't know how many people were there, it's frustrating because it's like you can watch the TV, see what they presented, see the card, see what they did with the card on Monday night, and then watch the crowd attendance go up and down. and sit back and be like, all right, what are they going to do in response to this? How are they going to fix this? And who's the one that's responsible to get it done? And that's part of the show. And just because we point out things that we don't like about it, or we say, oh, this show was boring or whatever, we're going to keep doing it, or I'm going to keep doing it at the very least if I have to, find a way to get other co-hosts eventually or whatever. We're going to keep doing it. But if there's one thing we know about, Memphis wrestling over the years, is that it's consistently inconsistent. It can be the best of times and it can be the worst of times, and that can be in the course of 1 month. I mean, you can see the greatest TV show you've ever watched, followed by the worst, followed by, another good one. Or you can see a string of bad ones. Right now, we're on kind of a run of some sort of rough stuff. But then again, I thought the Brian Christopher, Jeff Jarrett Southern title match, belt versus hair, I thought was a step in the right direction. If you take all the rest of this show out of it, having Uncle Danny and Wolfie D in a middleweight title match on television, given the time they were allowed, I thought was a good call. It was a good match. My only complaint about it, I don't even have a complaint about the interference. It's just the fact that Master of Terror being the one to interfere on Wolfie's behalf and costing Danny the title just contradicts what they were doing previously. But I'll gladly watch where it goes from here. And I guess to me, honestly, I wasn't going to say this at the beginning of the show because I didn't want to kind of spoil things. But if you take a step back and look, that whole thing may have just been done because Danny Davis couldn't be in Memphis on a Monday night, because he was not on that card anywhere on Monday night. Now, granted, he shows back up in Nashville and Louisville to fill in for Billy Travis, but, he wasn't on the Monday night card at all after just being on TV on Saturday and being featured prominently now for weeks. So it may have been a matter of like, hey, I can't be there Monday. And they're like, all right, well, let's put the title over on Wolfie. Jamie had it. Let's let Wolfie have it. And we're not just going to put them over on you clean. Let's throw Master of Terror in there somewhere. And so it's weird, but, I like I say, I hope folks don't just go like, damn, these guys hate this stuff. Why am I going to listen to them bitch about it every week? It's not going to be us bitching every week. And we do put over the stuff that's good. When it's good, we say it's good. But when it's bad, we're not going to tell you it's good. We're going to discuss why we think it's bad and where we hope it's going. And we'll cover it as we get there. Any thoughts on that, guys, or your 2 cents on it from your point of view?
Well, I like to think of it like this. Everybody always likes to think of, things in the past as being better, and even in our minds, there's some things that happened that was like way better back then. But when you get older, you look at it and go, no, that wasn't as good as what I remember. It was just as good as I remember. But I think the thing here is, what you hear nowadays is, well, that wrestling today ain't nothing. Back in my day, they didn't do this, and well, no, this show that we've been doing for the past 5 months is very well documented that they did some of the stupidest stuff that they're doing now. You know what I mean? Like some of the same stuff. And if we didn't enjoy the show, we wouldn't be here doing it. You know what I mean? Like you said, you would be here by yourself or with 2 other guys. We all enjoy doing and watching the show because this is what we grew up with this is what we love. And it was kind of like our little brother, even if it's cheesy, well, it's still our little brother. We can pick at it, we can make fun of it, but you let some non-wrestling fans say some of this stuff and I will throw a fireball on them bigger than what the Papa Shango did, to poor Scotty Flamingo Polo.
Hot night in Memphis.
Yeah. So I think when you hear this, when you hear us being somewhat negative, just know it comes from a place of love. We're doing it like our little brothers. Like we want it to be better because it makes it easier to defend to people that don't like it, to say, well, look, this was awesome. And this is why. It's kind of hard to defend a Marino, that's not playing football.
Yeah. And just like any TV show you love, like you said, there's going to be peaks and valleys and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But the thing about it is, we are wrestling fans and we're going to keep watching every week and hoping that it's going to get better because no matter what, wrestling is the one that we love, not, the bad stuff. You got to take the bad with the good. But yeah, That's what I always hoped as a kid too, man. Just it's going to be better next week, and if it's not, well, I'll figure it out the next week.
And you do have bright spots. You have PG-13. You've got Brian. You've got Jeff. You got Danny. You do have bright spots in there that you can watch, and it's entertaining from that point of view. It's just the other things. It's the valleys in the shows that make it pretty rough.
Well, and two, the fact that it can be so good at times is what makes the bad times frustrating. Because it's like when your parent or your coach is like, "You're better than this. I know. I've seen it. I know it." That's how you feel watching this. Like, I've seen you guys do better stuff than this. You have the ability. Why are you doing this? It doesn't make sense. And that's where you get frustrated. And like I say, that can come off as being mean on our part, but it's not. It's just frustration. And it's like, oh, come on, man. You got this all this talent. Like you just named off all the names that you just named off. This show should be just awesome beginning to end. But again, back to the reason I brought it up earlier in the show, you don't really know who to even look at as far as like who is putting this together, who is booking this, or is it really like kind of nobody is, since Lawler and Jarrett are tied up. They're just kind of showing up on Saturday and like, what are we doing, boss? Well, y'all are wrestling each other, I guess. You know, Lawler made this card, so let's take this and make a show out of it. And the thing is, you know, when you're talking about, you know, 30-year-old or more stuff as wrestling fans and just as people, it's like you said, Josh, when you talk about just TV shows and sports and things in general, you're going to reflect on the good times. You know what I mean? Like people are going to talk about all the great angles and the great matches and the great memories they have. You never hear anybody go, "Oh man, you remember that angle with so-and-so? That was the shits." No, you're going to talk about the good stuff. But people all the time talk about the Eddie Gilbert hit and run angle where him and Doug hit Lawler with the car. Nobody talks about the fact the show had been dog shit for like weeks. That's why Jerry Lawler and Eddie Gilbert got together and like, man, the houses are drawing terrible. People aren't watching quite like they were. What can we do to, you know, get something going and get people talking? And then they did this angle and things started, and even it wasn't even immediately. It still took a few weeks for things to ramp up and for us to see, you know, something positive. You go back and watch USWA from 1990 up to the point that Eddie Gilbert hit Lawler with that car. You think this is tough. It was a tough watch, and there was some weird stuff going on. I mean, and this match was leading up to like a Jerry Lawler and Brickhouse Brown tag team match, but against Eddie and Doug. But nobody remembers any of that. They just remember that time he hit him with a car? Man, that was cool. So, of course, in our minds, we're going to remember like, man, the USWA was so good. And then, like you say, when you sit here and watch 5 months straight every single week and you discuss every single Monday night, that's 52 Monday night cards of the year. They can't all be home runs. I mean, it's not possible. So, you know, to me, it's fun just to see how they react when things get really bad. It's like, all right, how you going to book yourself out of this corner? And we've been stuck in this corner for a little while now. So I'm still asking that question. And somebody's answer was, I know how we're going to do it. We're going to put the belt on Papa Shango. Richard's like, fuck yeah, I'm getting to watch Papa Shango. This is good stuff.
Well, you think about it. I mean, you had an extreme high with Macho Man being like a repeat returner, you know, and it looks like everything was building up so high. And you know, if you get up here, eventually you got to come back down. You know, I feel like we're coming back down, and we're going to be raising up again. I don't know. Macho Man's coming back, but they're going to send somebody.
I don't know, brother. I think I'm just going to do this commentary on Raw and sit this one out. Not coming to Memphis to wrestle Papa Shango.
Put a headlock on hunger, you know.
Yeah, I'm curing hunger, brother. I ain't got time to wrestle Jerry Lawler again.
More of a philanthropist now.
I'm more of a full-on rapist. Always Sunny in Philly reference, and I'm not portraying Randy Savage as a rapist. People, that's a joke for a handful of people who watch that show. Well, all right. I thought we were going to come in way under time. We were doing really good, but as usual, we kind of get on the other side of the Monday night card and kind of get to debating it, or not debating it, but explaining ourselves, explaining our response to it, and then we still end up creeping up to 2 hours, but. Yeah. Hey, it's been a good time. And like I say, I appreciate you guys, because whether the whether the show's good or not that we have to watch, you guys always make it entertaining and make it fun to talk about, and I appreciate it, and I know the listeners do too. So thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you,
man.
Gene.
Thanks
for having us.
Thanks for having us, and we always have a fun time reliving. Because, dude, when I watch this shit back again, it's just like I'm 10 years old again. You know, it's really fun.
That's right. That's right. That's the whole purpose. So, hey, if you want to hear more of these guys where they're not handcuffed with talking just strictly about wrestling and USWA from 1993, check out P3 Radio, their weekly podcast. And it's on the screen if you're watching the video cast. If you're just listening, it's the letter P, the number 3, and the word radio. Wherever you listen to podcasts, it's there, it's available, it's a lot of fun. Tell the listeners a little bit about what you've been having going on lately. What's some stuff that they can hear if they go check out P3 Radio as of late? How's that for putting you on the spot?
Shit, what did we talk about the last few weeks?
We talked about a man that stole a car to make it to his court date for Grand Theft Auto. We talked about that recently.
Hurricane preparation. There was a guy, he fucking essentially cargo strapped his entire house down for Milton. And we kind of, dissect that a little bit, have fun with it.
Yeah. That guy was a Boy Scout. He was prepared, son.
I
sound like Steve Dahl all of a sudden.
A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how a friend of ours, well, not a friend, just a former classmate.
He's a neighborhood kid.
Well, yeah, we talked about that too. I was talking about the one woman that was trying to sell her chainsaw on Facebook Marketplace. That was weird and funny. So we talk about a lot of stupid stuff, you know.
We try to have fun with whatever situation we are talking about. Everything but religion and politics, you know. Those are pretty much two covered subjects that we don't want to dive into at all.
Although this week Josh did talk about the last time he went to church and how he left after Sunday school to watch WWF
Action Zone.
Action Zone. He was like, "No, I've had enough of the Lord. I'm gonna watch Action Zone." You know,
sorry, Lord, I gotta see Todd Pettengill.
So, just getting off just a little bit of the situation. I tried to sneak out the side door after Sunday school, and my youth minister caught me. And then we had a confrontation in the parking lot. And I'm like, "No, I'm going home to watch WWF." And you have to listen to hear how it ended.
I'm glad that story ended with a confrontation in the parking lot and not where when you said the youth minister caught you at a side door leaving. I thought that was going to go somewhere much darker. So that's good to hear.
That's why I hate church.
I had no idea you were Catholic, sir. Anyway, that's some of the things that you will hear if you check out P3 Radio. But I'll tell you what you won't hear if you check out P3 Radio. You will not hear a smoke alarm that needs the battery changed. We promise you that. Week in, week out. I don't know how many episodes you guys are up to now. I saw the number recently, but it slips my mind. Where are you at on that, roughly?
376?
377 will be the next one.
377 coming up, and not one single beeping smoke alarm in one of them. And that's really all you can ask for in a podcast, right? I just jinxed y'all. 377 is going to feature.
No, I honestly, up here in the studio, I don't see not one smoke alarm. So I think we're good.
That's how you do it.
You might hear panic yelling one day.
Rich is like, here's the thing, Josh. No one's ever going to hear a smoke alarm here. But then again, they may listen to us burn up in flames. Because
we'll be like the Titanic band members, just playing as the ship. We're just throwing out dick jokes as we smoke ourselves to death.
We'll move to the roof. And then we'll jump.
That is the dedication that Josh and Richard have with P3 Radio. They will put their lives on the line. They will risk life and limb to bring you sound quality and fun. So give them a chance. Check it out, P3 Radio. And for all of my nonsense that I do, well, I'm not going to tell you right here. Stick around on the other side of this. I'll tell you all about how you can listen to more podcast. If you ain't heard enough of me in this 2 hours, get ready for the Doug Gilbert podcast, the Retro Wrestling podcast on YouTube. and tons of fun stuff on WrestleCopia. And until then, guys, we'll see you next week for another episode of the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Hey, folks, before we get out of here, I'd just like to take a moment to tell you we appreciate you checking out the podcast. And if you would, do us a favor, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you're listening to this right now, wherever you're watching it. If you'll just take a moment to either subscribe, to rate, and review, let us know what you think. We hope you're liking it. But even if you're not, let us know what you would like to see changed, and we will take that in consideration as we move forward. So we really appreciate any feedback we can get. Also, we just want to say how proud we are to be a part of the WrestleCopia brand of wrestling podcast. Ray Russell brings you something for everyone over at WrestleCopia.com. Check out all the great wrestling podcasts available over there right now. And for all things related to the Retro Wrestling Review podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com and you can find links to everything we have there, our Facebook, our Twitter/X, our TikTok, our Instagram, our merch store. That's right. We've got shirts, we've got hats, we've got phone cases, we've got all kinds of great stuff. And it's all right there at our store. And you can find a link to it at USWApodcast.com. There's a link to the YouTube channel we're associated with, the Retro Wrestling Archive. You can find all that there. And if you have questions for us, if you saw something on the show that you have a question about or a comment about, if you've got some info to answer a question we have, or you had a question you want us to read on the air, if you want to work out an ad swap, if you want to have any kind of communication with us, you can go and send an email to USWApodcast@outlook.com, and I will get back to you just as quickly as humanly possible. And if you're a fan of Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert, and if you've heard it, I know you are, check out DougGilbertPodcast.com for all things related to Doug's podcast. You can find links to our Facebook page for the show, our Twitter. You can find links to Doug's social media, his Twitter, his Facebook. All that's available there, plus a link to the YouTube channel. And if you have a question for Doug you would like for me to ask him on the air, you can send that question to DougGilbertPodcast@outlook.com, and we will get it added and it will get answered in a future episode just as quickly as we can work it in. So we appreciate you listening. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you here next week for more.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. And when you get the wife on there, sometimes that can lead to some very interesting conversation. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events in West Tennessee, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. I would like to tell you that this is a show about nothing, but Seinfeld already has that copyrighted, so I cannot tell you that our podcast is a show about nothing. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Microgroup Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices, and always remember, no dollar, no dice.